Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 134.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? Entrepreneur Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? All right, power parents, let's power this thing up because I have a chat with Liz Applegate, who is the founder of Midlife Schmidlife. And she is, I had a great opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to chat with her a few days ago on her podcast. And she was so kind to reciprocate and come on over and chat with y'all. So she is really, if you want to look at what she does for a living, she's a transformative life coach. And like me, she's multi-passionate. And she's pretty close to being an empty nester, closer than I am. So let's just welcome Liz. Hello there. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for that nice introduction.
You're welcome. It was so great to chat with you the other day on your podcast. I'm so glad that I get a chance to do the same and do as much damage as we can together here on my show. But so to start off, we always start off with your story because I can't wait to hear it. I didn't get a chance to hear it when we chatted. So tell me, how did you become an entrepreneur and a parent at this? Well, I don't need to know how you became a parent. I know that. So how did you become a parent entrepreneur? Which one came first, the parenting or the business?
The parenting came first. And it's funny because when I hadn't thought about this until I thought about being on your podcast and looking back over times as I've been a parent, and my kids are all older, so I don't have kids necessarily in the home every day, but I do remember even when I had younger children and trying to be an entrepreneur. So I got involved in several kind of network marketing opportunities. And so I always feel like I've had that spirit for a while. But it really wasn't until my kids, I had actually two in college at the time, and one was still in high school here at home. And I was really finding myself being spread very thin as far as having a 2-week vacation and then having to decide, where was I going to spend it? Was I going to drive up to Kansas to see my oldest son? Was I going to drive over to Louisiana to see my middle son? And then let alone spend time with my husband. And so it really got to be where I wanted to be able to be just the mom I wanted to be and be involved in my kids' lives, even when they were out of the home. And they still wanted me there. So I just found that to be kind of difficult. And it started to make me kind of angry, I'll be honest with you, because I just felt like this was my family, and I was having to take 2 weeks and try to, parse it out throughout a year. And I just thought that there should be something more. So at the time, I was working in nonprofit marketing and had been doing that for probably 15 years. And I always had, in nonprofit marketing, you do everything from A to Z. You don't have big, departments to support you. So basically, I did a lot of things, everything from graphic design to online marketing. And I had a lot of people that were asking me advice. And I just had this idea, and I was freely helping people start their businesses or helping them in their businesses. And I had this idea of, well, I wonder if people would want to pay for this, would want to pay me for some of these services. And so I started doing that on the side, and which was great because I had kids in college. So the income was nice. And then I just I don't know. I feel like because of that entrepreneurial spirit that I've just had for so long, I just saw that opportunity to be something that I could create my own business with. And so I did. And in that time period, I realized that a lot of my clients were coming to me, and they needed not so much advice, but they needed someone to listen and someone to guide them. And they were coming up against their own fears and their own business. And I really wanted to be able to support my clients. And that was when I decided to become a certified life coach. And I also felt that being a parent of older children, that would come in handy as well. And it
Oh yeah.
has.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and just in that process, really discovered that I was moving into a new time in my life. As my kids were getting older, I began questioning who I was. It becomes really this question of, I know I'll always be their mother, but they don't really need me anymore. It's a very strange time in your life. And I just thought I'm just not ready to pack it in. And that's kind of, I kind of laugh at that, but it's kind of just society's view of things. You can see it in the movies where these these actresses that I grew up with, and now all of a sudden they're playing like the old ladies in the movies. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it just was this time that I thought, I'm just getting started here. This is a new time in my life, and I can make this be anything that I want it to be. And that was when, kind of as a joke, as I was turning 50, it was kind of like midlife, schmidlife. This is just for the birds. And so it kind of stuck. And I realized that I was helping a lot of again, it's just kind of transitioning, just being open to what comes up. And what kind of falls into your lap. And I realized that I really had this passion for helping other women just realize that, okay, this is, we've given so much to our families, and we might not even know what it is we want to do anymore. But it doesn't mean that we have to stay stuck in that. We have a real opportunity to rediscover who we are and redefine our lives. And so I created Midlife Schmidlife in a podcast, and it's just been really a lot of fun.
That is an incredible story, and I got to tell you, it resonates completely with my life as well. And I guarantee you, there are, as you already know, I don't have to guarantee you because you have a business around it. So there's a lot of people who relate to that. But I have to bring it back a little bit because I really want to. A couple of the things that you talked about, I really want to dive into a little bit deeper. So, before I dive into those, I have to say one thing that. What we talk about on this show are stages. And all of those things you mentioned are just going through the natural stages of life, right?
Right.
We go through the beginning stages, and we're newborns with our newborn, and we go through school again. I mean, didn't you really feel like you basically had to go to school again yourself, helping your kids through school? It's just like you're there again. And then you go through, and this is just the next stage. And it's so funny how we identify so strongly with that word mom and that role mom, and the same thing with dad. We identify so strongly with that, and that becomes kind of our identity. And then once that changes and they no longer need us, we can hang on to it if we want, but then that's going to create a pretty tough situation for our kids to be able to become adults. So we have to let that go. We really don't have much of a choice. And so when we let go of that role, we have to really look inside and go, okay, where's my identity now? Who am I now? And really morph into that and allow ourselves to grow. And there's a great book that I read, and I was looking for it as you were talking on my bookshelf behind me, and I can't find it, but I can't find it quickly. But it was something about the next spring. And it basically talks about women specifically, where when we go through this whole midlife crisis, kind of not crisis, but we go through menopause and we age, it becomes basically our next spring. And because we find a newfound energy for the next phase.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I look at it. It's amazing. It's exciting, but it's almost like, just like spring comes after the death of winter, it really almost feels like that you're mourning something, the loss of something. At
Very
least
much
that's
so.
what I found. Yeah. Did you find that?
Oh, yes, very much so. And I'll be quite honest that when my oldest graduated high school, I had a horrible time. I really feel like looking back on it, I really probably should have sought some help with that because I really was struggling with my identity, and it just I don't know. It's hard for me to even imagine me being back there, but knowing how hard of a time I had and the tears that were shed and
Yeah.
the dark chocolate that was eaten and
I was going to
yeah,
ask you, how did that manifest itself? But you just showed
yes,
me.
yes, red wine and dark chocolate and oh my goodness. Yeah, so it was not pretty. It was not a graceful transition for me. And I always want to make sure that people know that because it's I mean, I felt like you said, like I felt like I did have to kind of come through that though. I had to be in that hard place and that recognize that grieving to really come out the other side and be open to changing and being accepting and really probably for the first time ever starting to really love and appreciate myself for just myself.
Yeah. And I can see, I thank you for that because it is so true. And your podcast, I think, is going to help many people do that. And many people find their own path through that transition. And the reason is because it's just like anything else in life. You know, we think we're going through this all by ourselves and we're the only ones that experience this and the only ones that feel this. And so it feels very isolating and very lonely until we start investigating and finding out there are many other people, and this is kind of normal to go through this stage. And how we handle it depends on our own views on life and what we've gone through in the past. But it's both men and women. I mean, I see it in my
Right.
husband as well. I see it
Right.
in myself. It's there's a sadness. There's just an underlying sadness,
Hmm.
and to some extent, we look at our kids and go, "Oh my gosh, the opportunities that are open to you right now are incredible." And then it's natural to look back on our own lives and go, "Why didn't I do this?" Or "Why didn't I do that?" Or "Man, if I wouldn't have been so afraid, I could have done this." And had a lot of those things come up. And they're just going to, unless you've been total free spirit and done everything and had no fears whatsoever. I don't know any of those people, but I'm sure they exist somewhere. Maybe on
Right,
Mars.
right.
I don't know, but I don't know them. But that's natural because we didn't do everything. We couldn't have done. Our lives are different. So, to be able to hear what other people have done, but it's okay, and it's never too late. Absolutely never too late to do really what it is you want to do. And I assume that's exactly, you're the example of that.
Mm. Well, I hope to be.
Yes. So,
I definitely hope to be.
that brings me back to what I really wanted to talk about in your story that you mentioned. And you started with you were always trying to be an entrepreneur, and you did some of the some things along the way. So tell me a little bit more about that. So what were you doing in your business, in your work? So you were the nonprofit marketing still, and then you started some things on the side. Tell me a little bit about that.
Actually, it probably started more when I was staying home with the kids. Now I have three boys, and they are the first two are 22 months apart, and then the last, well, it's only I don't know how to explain this. So the first and the second are 22 months apart. The second and the third are 18 months apart. So at
Wow.
one point I had all three kids in diapers.
Oh
And
my.
yes, yes, I'm not quite sure how I survived that time, but I did. So, um, and so even when I was staying at home, I I always wanted to be this great June Cleaver stay-at-home mom. I just really did. I honestly had that dream since I was a kid. I always knew I wanted to be a mom, and I just had this vision of what that meant, which was so far from how I grew up.
Isn't that
But
always? Yeah,
yeah,
and
I know.
not only that, it was far from reality.
It was far from reality,
Yeah.
but I actually knew it was far from reality, but I was going to try really darn hard to make that a reality. And I did. I have to say, I really did try. Um, to the point where I I was not happy though doing that. And it took me a while. Again, when you talk about things that people don't talk about,
Hmm.
I didn't have any friends saying, "Gosh, this stay-at-home stuff really stinks."
Stinks.
I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't talk about that. And
Hmm.
come to find out, a lot of people felt it, but people just don't feel open enough to voice it. They feel like
Right.
they're alone in that.
Right.
But I really started looking for something else to um, kind of, I don't want to say it was a void, but there was just something in me that needed something more and needed to be doing something. And I have been working since I was 15 years old. And so this was very new to me as well, where I wasn't bringing in any money. So that was a hard thing for me. So there was just a lot of my own personal, actually, probably history and backstory coming up through all
Yeah.
that.
Isn't it amazing? I got to ask you, Liz, real quick. We talked
Mm.
about identity as a mom, but we really, that's one of the things the women's movement gave us is another identity on top of mom, which was breadwinner. And that we really I personally didn't feel valuable to my family unless I was bringing in money.
I know, isn't that strange?
Isn't
Because I
that
was the same way, even now.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird,
Yeah.
isn't it? It
Yeah.
really and we weren't able to just be a mom because that was the the most important role to be able to have the next generation turn out halfway decent.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
somehow we've done it, right?
Mm.
Somehow we've done both. And
Yeah.
like I kept telling my husband, who wanted to always give the kids things, I kept telling them, they will rise to whatever expectation you set.
Hmm.
And guess what? We did too.
Right.
And we
Exactly.
set the expectation ourselves. And we
Exactly.
rose to it. So I'm sorry I had to interrupt, but that was
No,
just like,
no, it's
you
great.
want to
No,
talk
it's
about
true.
roles and identities. There you go.
Mhm.
So you
Right.
wanted to bring in money and
Right. And so it was during the time of I think the first one I tried was Discovery Toys. I don't even know if they're still around anymore,
I've
but
heard the name. Yeah.
yeah. So they used to have these home parties and you would be like a rep and I
Hmm.
thought, well, this is fun and I have kids and so I'll get involved in this and I'll just do these home parties and um what would happen is you would go into a home and then usually it was the mom that would be the hostess and then she would invite all her friends and you get to show these fun educational toys and then they buy the toys and then you make a profit off of that.
Hmm.
So, or not really a profit, but you get
Commission.
commission. There you go.
Mhm.
So I tried that. I tried Tupperware.
Right.
Um, I tried I think I tried Mary Kay at that point. So I just knew that I wanted something to call my own in a way. I think that that's probably the longing that I was having. Plus, if it could bring in money, then that was a bonus, right? So,
Right.
so that kind of started at the same time, and this is so funny to think about because it really wasn't that long ago, but at the same time, I remember us getting internet at home. And this was way before. I mean, this was at a time when you got internet and nobody even knew what to do with it.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
um, but for some reason, I started seeing you could kind of start to see it change and evolve, and people were making these when I look back on it now, they were horrible websites, but
Hmm.
I just thought, well, how is that being made? How are people
Hmm.
building those? And
Hmm.
and oh, look at the graphics. And I really became kind of interested, and I've always been a self-learner and just I'm always interested in learning things. And so I began fooling around with at the time it was called desktop publishing. And so I really started doing that and making cards and making newsletters and graphics and that kind of stuff. So that was really probably what I would say started my, I don't know, my entrepreneurial journey. And then by this time, I am now volunteering. I'm with PTA, I'm with Cub Scouts. I've kind of morphed now into another phase of parenting, but I had all these skills that I could help them with.
Right.
And so even though I wasn't technically making money, I'm doing air quotes right now. I wasn't really a business for myself, but I was offering my services and to these volunteer positions that I had.
And you were getting experience. You were
Exactly.
using that knowledge and experience somewhere.
Exactly. And that, that is in a, you want to talk about a golden thread that just, I can trace what I'm doing. Because I do still have some virtual support clients of mine, and I still do some graphics and marketing work for them. And I can take that, that thread just goes right back to that time in my life.
Yeah. Wow. And then, so when did you actually decide? Do you remember the time when it was a decision that, because when did you actually start working for a quote job after that, during that time?
It was when my my youngest was in kindergarten, and I took on a part-time job at the church that we attended. And so I took on a part-time job there. And so that was kind of my going back to work time. And then within maybe a year or two, kindergarten here is half days. So at that time, I only wanted to work half days. And so that worked out great. But again, it fell, the job that I ended up getting there full time was because of this graphics and marketing experience that I had just done through interest and wanting to have something for myself. And so I was able then to convert that and to actually get a job, which led me into nonprofit marketing for different organizations for over 15 years.
Wow. Isn't that amazing how you look at that one little choice?
It's amazing.
Yeah, and how it created a whole career. And now landing you in the next phase of your life and creating a whole business.
Right.
Wow. I got to tell you, you and I are just going to have to start, our own mastermind or something together, because
I
it's
love
just
that.
way too similar
I
of
know.
a trajectory. And it's, I keep thinking about, once you put yourself out there and you make yourself open, you meet people, and, over 100 and some people that I've interviewed, and I've said that probably to about 10 of them because it is so similar. But okay, so now you're working, and you're actually now doing this as a job, but it sounds like to me that's not really what you wanted. That's just what you fell into, because it was, again, what we were raised with, that you get a job. You don't become an entrepreneur and create your own business.
Right.
You get a job. You need the security. You need the retirement. You need the benefits. You need the blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And now we come to your kids going on to the next phase of their life. And what do you remember the actual thought process? Now, you already shared that a little bit, because I think it was based on freedom, it sounds like. Instead of worrying about this vacation, you wanted to really be able to have the freedom.
Freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
And, when you're working someplace and you have to be there at 9, and I had to take a lunch. I didn't even get flexibility around when I took my lunch. And then I have, a set amount of time to take off, and I'm looking at, okay, well, I only have 2 weeks, and, there's a parents' weekend up in Kansas. There's a parents' weekend. Of course, when I started thinking about this, it was just when my oldest had gone off to college. So, but still, I still had the 2 boys here. My husband and I, well, it might be nice for us to take a vacation.
Yeah.
And so all this time, not all this time, it was very little time that I had, was having to be split in so many ways. And I just thought, I don't know. I kind of just got this slow burn as what it's kind of was like a glow of, okay,
Hmm.
what else can I do? What else can I do? I knew as well that I was after doing something for 15 years, even with different organizations, I wasn't I wasn't learning. I mean, I was constantly trying to learn new things, but it just didn't feel
It felt stagnant,
it felt stagnant, yes.
sounds like.
And right. And so I didn't feel like I was showing up well, and I don't like that feeling,
Hmm.
So I like to know that when I'm showing up, I'm showing up. And when I'm just kind of going through the motions, that just doesn't work well for me. And
Right.
so I just knew that I had to do something. And then so, the first thing honestly was, well, do I want to get another job? Because, that's what I've been doing, right?
Right. Right.
Forever. So it was kind of like I would look at other jobs and I would apply for other jobs. I would even interview for other jobs. And it just, I don't know, it just was this kind of heavy, nothing was exciting about it at all.
Right.
And then when I started realizing that I was helping other people. And then it was kind of, I didn't mind helping them, but then that was kind of what spurred the thoughts of, I wonder if people will pay for this.
Yeah.
And they did.
Wow. And so I guess Power Parents, a couple of things I want to point out with what Liz just said. Things, we fall into things and we can either, that door kind of starts cracking open and we can either push it open and go through, or we can close it and stay in our little room.
Hmm.
And it looks like as the door started creaking open, you were ready because it was a transition time for you also with your kids going to college. And again, Power Parents, I got to tell you, if you think it's tough when you have the little ones or the kids in school and basically you have to accommodate their quote summer vacations, and that's 3 months, okay,
Yeah.
that you had to plan around. When they start going away, you don't have control of them anymore. You can't
Mm-mm.
plan family vacations. It doesn't happen that way anymore. They start having their own lives and girlfriends or
Right.
boyfriends or friends that they want to go out on, spring break with, and you're no longer the center of their universe. Um,
So,
and
so true.
isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
it's really weird, and I think that's the biggest. I think that's the first bereavement I felt
Hmm.
is that you're no longer their center of their universe. They are really creating their own universe. If you let them, you can try
Right.
and pull them in and give them guilt and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But really, if you let them, they start creating their own lives, and that's kind of what it's all about. So when you have these little babies, you think they're yours, and but really what you're doing is preparing them to leave you.
Right.
And if you don't do that very well, then they won't really become as happy, productive, peaceful. Um, Basically compassionate human beings that they could possibly be. So, you're going to have to figure that out too. So it sounds like you were going through that transition at the same time as that door was cracking open. And it was just the perfect time because that door cracked open before when you started your,
Hmm.
desktop publishing, right?
Right.
But you
Right.
didn't open it
Right.
because it
You're
wasn't
so
the
right.
time, right?
Yeah.
Whatever was happening, you either weren't ready or you didn't want it for some reason you didn't want to open that door. So you took a
Hmm.
job, but now it presented itself again. And
Hmm.
now you were ready to open it.
Right.
So look at your lives, Power Parents, and see, is that door cracking open and am I really ready to step through and just swing it open and embrace whatever's on the other side? Because that's what it feels like. You can
Hmm.
embrace what's on that other side. So
Right.
now, how long ago was that you swung that door wide open?
Well, so to me, there's a difference because the door cracked and I had one foot in both sides.
We call that being
So,
a sidepreneur here still,
right.
right?
Yes. So I did that for about, I did that for about a year and a half. So I worked my full-time job and then I would come home and had my virtual support clients that I worked evenings and the weekends. And it was a lot of work. And
Yeah.
there's no no doubting that. I mean, I look back on the hours that I spent working and just can't believe that I made it through
That you
that.
actually had time to sleep. Yes.
Yes, yes. But what had happened during that time was I just remember thinking to myself, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to just do this halfway. Um, I'm going to really give this a shot. And if this doesn't work, then I'll go get my job, right? I'll go get another job.
Yeah.
But for now, I just feel like I need to try this. And so I did that for about a year and a half. And at one point during that year and a half, I realized that I was still treating my business kind of like a hobby and giving away a lot of my services still, which was good. I mean, I feel like you have to do that. And I feel like you do have to come to that point in your business when you realize or ask yourself, is this a business or is this a hobby?
Right.
And then I just thought, okay, well, I've talked it over with my husband, of course, and gave a deadline of when I was going to go out on my own. And it's really funny, whatever beliefs you have, as soon I feel like you were talking about, you put it out there and, you get these things back. As soon as I put that out there that, okay, I'm in October of 2000, oh gosh, I don't even remember what year it was now. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but I thought, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to be quitting. It would have been 2015. Well, and this was in 2014 when I made that declaration. Well, I ended up at the beginning of 2015, I got 2 clients just fell into my lap. Well, I don't want to say they fell into my lap. They were a recommendation from somebody that enabled me to leave my full-time job 10 months earlier.
10 months before your goal.
Before my goal. There was no way I could continue. There's no way I could work full-time and then take on those clients. It just wouldn't have been possible. So,
and were these like desktop publishing type clients, marketing, graphic design kind of clients, or what kind of clients were they?
I was providing online business management services, which is virtual support, like a virtual assistant, but kind of I was doing a lot of things. So it kind of falls under this big umbrella where I was doing graphics, social media, some back-end website help, just, e-newsletters, just that kind of like the online moving parts of a person's business that an entrepreneur has a hard time keeping on top of, which I know that now from my own experience. But yes, so that's what I was helping clients with. So
wow. Okay. So, and what was going on in your life at that time? So when you made that declaration, it was probably, around the fall of 2014.
Yes.
And then, so where were your kids in that time frame? What was happening in fall of 2014? Where were they?
So I'm having a midlife moment here where I'm like, put it together.
Go for it.
My oldest had graduated college.
The spring before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. My second son was in college, and then is that right? I guess so. And then but I had 2 in college. So I'm going to be quite honest. I hate using the term middle child because I know.
You can just say the second one or
or the third. So my second and third sons were in college at the time because yes, that is correct.
And so did the youngest just start, or had he already been in for a while?
He had just started.
See, I really see these patterns where there's a major change. So now you have the last one that left your home to go to college. I mean, he may have been local or whatever, but it was a huge transition.
Definitely.
And then we make these transitions. That's amazing. Wow. So you made that declaration, and by the, right after the holidays, by the first of the year, boom, it happened.
Yeah, it was January, and I got an email, and I thought, for the first client, and I thought, whoa, is this really true? I thought it was, is this really true? And then And okay, so the funny part about that is she was so busy, and we spoke on the phone and had our interview, and um but she didn't get back to me for about 2 weeks, and then she kept saying, "Oh, yes, I want to finalize this, but I'm just so busy right now." And so part of me was thinking, "Okay, well, this probably is not going to
Yeah,
work."
she's gonna back out. She's just using
Yeah,
that as an excuse. Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Oh
what
yeah.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then so um she verbally said, "Yes, I want to hire you," but I didn't get a confirmed, contract signed or anything
Right.
like that. But with what I knew was coming up at my work, I I couldn't, like, I was coming up on this 2-week time of putting in a notice. I knew that I needed to do it or not do it. And if I went over that 2 weeks, then I was going to have a hard time leaving because it would have gotten into this busy season.
Hmm.
And so I went and took a total leap of faith and just said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm just going to put in my 2 weeks notice and just hope and just count on her word." Which honestly, I can't believe I did that because that's
You felt pretty foolish about that now, huh?
yes, yes. But actually she came through and it turned out perfectly. But
Yeah.
I know that that was another just kind of a scary moment. And so to me, that was when that proverbial door was flung right open,
Right
is
open.
when I
Yeah.
decided to just go on faith of myself and whatever you think of as far as
Yeah.
ruling those kinds of things
Yeah.
and deciding those things for yourself. But that was a biggie for me, and I've
Yeah.
continued to have that faith in myself since.
Isn't that amazing? Okay, Power Parents, I got to tell you, I used to be a much more judgmental person before I started this podcast and started talking to amazing people like this amazing person I'm talking to today, Liz. And I used to judge like, "Oh, you shouldn't put your kids in daycare and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't." And I've really opened that up to go, "Bad Mary, bad Mary. That was not nice." But it was because I wasn't exposed to any of these people and any of these other possibilities of living a life. And I have to tell you, one of the things I've seen and heard from these conversations, and yours especially, Liz, is we whatever happens, it happens the way it's supposed to. And the way we accept it, and it's not good or bad, it's not right or wrong, because you had that opportunity 15 years earlier. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter why, it wasn't right.
Right.
And now it is. And you
Hmm.
do it. And we don't look back and regret, right? There's no reason, because if you do that, you're just going to make yourself nuts.
Right.
Because you can't change it, you can't do anything about it. And so you just look forward and go, wow, I'm so glad I took this opportunity and it has opened up. And like you said, your fears, they don't disappear, but you do believe in yourself more and more each time you jump that hurdle, that
Right.
next hurdle. Because now that was in being a support person. Now you are a coach. You're a
Hmm.
life coach. That's very different from being
Right.
a virtual assistant. So
Right.
now take me through, how did you come to that realization? So now you've started a business and you've believed that you can do it.
Hmm.
And I have a feeling that's probably where it stems, is because you believed you could do it, so you wanted to help other people believe what they can do.
I've always been someone who people would come to for advice or um, I feel like in parenting 3 kids who amazingly, I'm not sure how this ever happens, but
All right,
your
stop
kids are
right there. I'm not gonna accept that one. There's a reason. So
well,
accept the reason.
well, I just meant that the kids are also different, right? So you have to parent each child differently. And it's always funny to me how my 3 boys raised in the same house, and I'm dealing with 3 different personalities, and I feel like that was very helpful for me to learn to really listen to people. Because I was really having to switch gears quite often to
Hmm.
listen to the needs of my
Yes.
3 sons. And
Yes.
because because of that, and while I was still working part-time, I'm still, even though my clients know I'm working nights and weekends, they're still coming to me with their own fears and and these are people that I really respected. I looked at them and thought, wow, look, they have their own business, and I really want to have that someday. And I mean, I had a lot of admiration for them and still did, of course, but just to realize that they needed someone to talk to. Um, and that was when I thought, you know, I could offer something more than just the virtual support by being kind of a sounding board. And not that I couldn't I was already doing that anyway, but I have always been one, like I said before, that wants to learn and wants to show up as much as I can. And I just felt that even if I actually had no intention of becoming, quote, a life coach. It was just for the training. And I felt like that would be helpful in so many ways. And so I went through, I signed up for the training while I was working part-time, or I had those two jobs, my side job and my full-time job. Signed up for the training, knowing it was going to start at the beginning of 2015. So I had all these things converging at once. So, um, so I started by now I've started I'm getting lost in my own story. By now I've started my business full time. I've left, and now I'm starting coaching training. And probably about halfway through the training, I went through a specific training that was 9 months long. And about halfway through, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I love being a life coach. So, because I was building hours and working with coaching clients. And it just dawned on me how, again, just parts of myself and my experience through the years, and just how it all just kind of is tied in. It's just kind of amazing when I look at my whole life, actually, how one thing has led to another. So,
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean by it happens the way it's supposed to happen. And
right.
if we're open to it, lots of times we can close it off and be really too afraid of touching that part and really
Exactly.
being vulnerable and being open to that possibility. Because it is a vulnerability. You're scared. You might be rejected. You might be, I mean, all these terrible things. I see it in my kids and I look at them and go, you're not dying. It doesn't
Right.
matter if so-and-so likes you or doesn't like you. I mean, I don't say that, but you know what I mean. I'm thinking,
Sure.
like, why in the world would you stop doing something just because someone might not like you? But then I have to look at my own life and go, duh.
Right.
It's the way we're wired, all right? We're human beings. But, you know, I got to bring you back. I have to ask you one question that I think will really be helpful to the audience. And that is, you mentioned things about something about doing things for free, and eventually you're going to have to stop doing that and actually start charging. What did you do? And how did you approach that to be able to start charging for things that you were actually giving away for free? Because that's really difficult for a lot of people. How did you do that?
Well, when I started noticing that I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore, because there is there's a different energy from someone who receives something for free. And um, when you're working so hard, like I was working and doing things on the side and putting so much time into it, I realized I was approaching things like I was giving it away for free.
Right.
And that, being someone who's worked in nonprofits, I mean, goodness, I would love to just heal the world and give everything away for free, right?
Right.
But just the reality got to be where my energy was being zapped. My bank account was being zapped. And I don't know. I think really what happened, and I'll be honest, is I got burned by someone who I was trying to do a favor for,
Right.
and they weren't showing up. They were, and I hate to even say it, but it was a family member,
Yeah.
and they weren't happy with my product, even though they weren't happy with what I was doing for them, even though they weren't showing up. And here I was just basically, I wasn't even doing this I mean, I was trying to create a website for them, and that is not a service that I actually offer. And I just thought, here I'm trying to do someone a favor, and I've invested this much time. I've invested not only the time doing it, but the time trying to learn it. And
Mhm.
it just got to be where it was just the kick in the pants that I needed, that I
Right.
needed to stay on task and I needed to really look at what I was going to spend my time on. And if I wanted to make this a business, that meant that I needed to bring in money. And that's a hard thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole money thing can bring up a lot of coaching opportunities,
Yes.
even in
Yes.
myself for sure. So,
Yes.
so it was hard, but again, I feel like I had to go through that. If I wouldn't have gone through that, then I would still be sitting here having my side hustle and working full time and not really approaching this as a business.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It's kind of when you say yes to one thing, which is making a website when it's not really your core competency, it's not really what you enjoy, it's all those things, but you're still saying yes to it
Right.
because you want to do something for someone. You are actually at the same time saying no to your core competency, to the things that you could be doing that do feed you, that do energize you, and that have other people show up as well.
Right.
When we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else, and we have to make sure that the things we say yes to are really the things we want to spend our time doing, because really time is all we've got. That's it.
Right.
We've just got
Right.
time. So thank you for saying that, because and it also I've felt the exact same thing. I did the exact same thing helping someone, and only my problem, Liz, I got to tell you, is that I hang on to things for way too long.
Mm. No, I'm guilty
Way
of that
too
too.
long, way too
Yes.
long. I mean, I helped this person for a good 2 years get hurt, and I just was her friend and just jumped in
Mhm.
and did things for her and encouraged her and all these things. And it came out she was going to give me 10% of whatever she made and all this kind of stuff, and she just kept asking more and kept asking more and kept asking more, and I wasn't getting anything. And not only that, but I wasn't getting the recognition that what do you want me to do more? That
Mhm.
means I
Right.
can't do my other stuff. I can't build my business at the same time. And so that feeling in your gut. You really know it in your gut when it's gotten to a point when it's just too much.
Mhm.
And no matter what you do, it's not going to be comfortable to confront those situations, to communicate in those situations. I don't care what it is. It's not going to be comfortable because you're both coming with your own stuff. So yeah, it's really hard
It is
to
hard.
make yourself say, no, I'm done. I can't do this
Mhm.
anymore. But you have to, because otherwise you're just going to stay in a hobby and you're not going to be happy, because
Right.
that feeling is going to stay in your gut until
Right.
you get it out. And,
Right.
you got to move on, and look where you are now. So thank you for giving us that lesson. And I know there are
Sure.
power parents out there, because I've talked to you on Twitter and on Facebook and in actually Skype conversations. I've talked to you who are in that place, Liz, exactly that place, giving it away, trying to build and feeling like something's not working.
Mhm.
And that's where it is. You need to stop doing that and start
Right.
saying yes to the things that feed you, not
Mhm.
only with money so you can eat, but also with your own spirit and your own soul, and start saying no to those things that don't.
Right.
That's a really strong tool
Mhm.
and a skill that we all need to hone. So
Right.
thank you for
And then
that.
and then I want to talk too about the whole pricing thing. Like even,
Yes.
even just the website ordeal, I still was giving away, um, I'd come up with a project that I'd be doing for a client, and then they would request additional things to the project. And then
Right.
it's kind of a scope creep kind of thing, where now all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden a project was supposed to take, I don't know, 10 hours. Now we're up to 20 hours, right? But I'm
Right.
still getting paid for the 10 hours.
Right.
And it really just comes from those, it's a practice thing. It is a practice thing, and to find where that level is that you're comfortable. I'm not comfortable charging my clients for, every little tiny thing, but there
Right.
comes a point where I start to feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And that's a place where I don't ever want to come up against, so I try to put a buffer on that.
How do
Um,
you do that? How do you put that buffer on?
I think it's just being aware. It's just an awareness. And then once I'm starting to kind of feel like I'm approaching that because I have I have been taken advantage of. And so once I feel like maybe it's leading to that, then that's my signal.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you handle it? What do you say or what do you do?
Well, I have a, request to, can we talk on the phone or, Skype, or sometimes depending on the client, because of the work I do, I have clients all over the world for my virtual support. So sometimes it is just sending an email, and it's very nice. I've just noticed this, and I like to add in, I leave off a lot of the I feel statements.
Right.
I provide very concrete, this is what we discussed. This was, the amount of time. And now it looks like this is how much time I'm spending, and I just have concerns. And, and then, so that way, before I reach this point where now I'm kind of bad where if I hit this point, cross this line, I'm kind of done.
Right.
And so I don't want to get that way to my clients. So, but yeah, that whole money pricing, being comfortable, what do you charge? That takes time, I think, to work that out with yourself. And I even feel now it's still something I will continue to work on.
It is a sliding scale to a certain extent as you grow and increase your abilities.
Right.
And one of the things I thank you for sharing that, because one of the things that I do as well in that situation is you definitely leave your feelings out of it. You definitely look at it as these are the tasks that you've been asked to do and you've been paid to do. And so one of the things I try and do when people start adding that on is I'll see, say, 3 more things that they want to add on. And they're usually just a couple little things here and there. And, oh, can you do this too? And, oh, can you do that too? And once that happens the first time, okay, if it's something little, can you go make another adjustment to the site or to this graphic or whatever? Right. And I'll go ahead and do it. And then they ask the next one. And that's when I'll start going, okay, and send an email, usually something to the effect of, gosh, I was so glad that I was able to add that on to our agreement, that first thing. I was so glad that I could do that for you. If you'd like for me to continue adding things on, maybe we need to sit down and rework our agreement to include more things that you would like for me to do.
Right.
And then you're approaching it before it gets to that point. The first one is kind of your cue, and you're like, yeah, you want to satisfy your customer. You want them to be happy. Then that will lead. You can show them, well, I've already add this on. I've already done this additional thing. If we want to continue, I'd love to be able to do that for you. Let's revisit our agreement and add these things on formally so that I know exactly what is expected. Because that's kind of the way I bring it in. I want to know what's expected. I don't want to, be blindsided by anything if I can possibly help it, because that feels way worse.
Yes, it does. It really does.
Yeah. When someone says, well, I expected this, and I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
Right.
I didn't know that. That was not cool. Yeah. That makes me feel really bad. So yeah, there are many techniques. You just need to find your wording and your limits. And really that's what it is. When you are ready to go, nope, can't go any further. We've got to revisit this. Or I can add that one little thing.
Yeah, and that's a confidence thing. I mean, I really think, and honestly, I know it sounds funny, but I think that you have to go through that time where you feel like you've been taken advantage of, because it's not a good feeling. And I don't think that you can really honestly look out for yourself until you realize, oh, I really don't want to go through that again.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And it's just like, having a fight with your husband or your kids or something like that. You look at it and go, I really don't want to go through that again.
Exactly.
So, you look at it differently and you approach it differently next time so that you don't have to go through that. Yeah. This is life, You're right. You're right. It is confidence. It is, and that's experience. Maturity, all those words we can use, but they come from experience. They come from going through something. Wow. Thank you so much, Liz, for spending this time with us. I so appreciate it. Where can people find you? Where can people get in touch with you?
Sure. If people are looking to get over fear so that they can move forward and bring about this life that they have always wanted to live, they can go over to midlifeschmidlife.com/powerparent, and I will have a just an opt-in right there, and they can receive it in their inbox. Or I also have a personal website, ElizabethApplegate.com, which is a little bit easier to spell.
I think I can do Schmidlife. Yeah, I can definitely
Yes.
do that one. Wow. And then I'll, on the show notes, Power Parents, I'll have all of her social media handles there, ways that you can connect with Liz. And we'll just keep this train a-moving and keep on growing and changing and taking advantage of the opportunities that present themselves as each stage in our lives and the lives of our kids unfolds. So thanks again for joining us, Liz. I so appreciated your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Mary Catherine.
Okay, I hope you wrote down that link, or you can go to the show notes, parententrepreneurssuccess.com/PEP134, and you can get it there. But in case you are looking right now, go to midlifeschmidlife.com/powerparent and download that free gift that Liz is giving to you. Midlife schmidlife, that's really what it's all about. It doesn't matter what stage you're in. It doesn't matter where you are in this journey. Just make the most of it. Learn what you can, do what you need to do, and create the success you're looking for, especially when you're talking about being with your kids. All right, hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you enjoy the journey. Ready to uncover your parent entrepreneur crazy life score and get specific solutions to find more peace and profit in your life? Well, visit parententrepreneurssuccess.com/crazy score and take the quiz to see if you're Looney Tunes like me.